special meeting of the Norwalk Historical Commission on Walk Bridge. I think David has the script for this.
Hi, everyone. So Todd and I do have some updates to share. It appears that the DOT should have been consulting with us all along. They found some highly sensitive cultural artifacts, and they should have shared that information with us 3 years ago as a consulting partner in this project under the Section 106. As best I understand it, Todd understands it better than I do. Todd had a conversation with Kathy Labadia from the SHPO. I think sounds like she's going to be in our camp now. I had a conversation with Mandy Renslow, the former archaeologist for the DOT, who now works for a federal agency administering the Section 106 process. So they both clued us in on a couple of things. Todd, do you want to start? Because I think yours is most of the news.
Yeah, I know Kathy pretty well over time. I used to work for her before she, occasionally before she took this job at the state. And she's as annoyed, I think, as we are. So, you know, she said, I told them they should do this 3 years ago. They didn't. She said, I'm still trying to find out who made this decision. Where did it come from? I looked through my records, and the last communication I have from Kevin Fleming at DOT is from August 11th. And that has the Native American village in a panel in it as part of the mitigation. It's on page 20, figure 17. And apparently, according to I've been reading Section 106 and trying to stay awake today. It's a monster. But there is a provision for you know, not releasing the location of something that's important to the tribes. However, if that part of the mitigation is supposed to be done in consultation with all of the consulting parties. They included none of the consulting parties, including the SHPO. So this was done totally wrong. And Kathy is trying to get to the bottom of it. And when I asked her this afternoon about the, you know, because David said you were thinking about doing a letter, and she said, that's a really good idea because it lets them know that there's more people than just her who are interested in this. And she also sent me the addresses of 2 people at the Federal Transit Authority. The way Section 106 works is there has to be a federal agency that's the responsible agency. In this case, it's the Federal Transit Authority. So she sent and I forwarded it to David and Dana. She sent me the addresses of the 2 people the letter should go to at the FTA. And she said it should also go to the chairman of the DOT, Connecticut DOT, and with copies, and of course with copies to her. So she is definitely on our team. She's pretty annoyed as well. So that's a good thing in this case. And I asked her about, you know, trying to involve Mandy, and she said, that's kind of a nuclear option. Let's see if we can do it locally. And if that doesn't work, let's talk to Mandy. So that's pretty much where we are.
So which is really, really good news. I did speak to Mandy, and apparently her agency, if there's a dispute process outlined in the the MOA agreement that we signed with the DOT. And if they aren't doing something to live up to their mitigation requirement, section 106, we dispute it through her agency. It's actually not, she wouldn't be the person on it. Apparently it's somebody else, but I explained to her where we were. She didn't feel that where we are rises to the occasion of a formal dispute at this time. But I think that, putting that option out there, letting the DOT and the Federal Tribal Administration know that we're aware of that and we're looking into it, I think it would not be a bad thing at all. So what I'd like to suggest is 2 or 3 things. One, the business at hand short term is we have a deadline from Kevin Fleming at the DOT to respond to their request to change the interpretive signs to 2 signs on general Norwalk history. They recommended the industrial history of South Norwalk and something about Norwalk changing now. I don't know, some stuff. But we kind of already have an industrial history sign already on Washington Street that was put in as part of the Spinnaker project. And it's, I think that's too general and broad. I liked Holly's ideas that she outlined in her email of saying, fine, you want to do general history? Let's do general history about the indigenous peoples in this area. Let's put it back. Let's keep the subject focus back on that. So I think that's a good topic regardless for one of the signs. And the other sign, I would suggest that we say we still want to do the archaeology and we're pursuing these, and we have these other issues with the project, by the way, just in general terms. And then say that, and if at the end, if we don't want to do that, if we all agree that we don't want to do that, then I think we could do a sign on the pottery industry in Norwalk, because there was a big pottery factory right next to the Maritime Aquarium.
Where the parking garage is now.
Yeah, where the parking garage is. So it's that would be appropriate as well for that area. So we'll write a response to make sure we meet that deadline that he set for us is number 1. Then I think we write a letter to Kathy at the SHPO expressing our concerns and copy the 2 people at the FTA.
She said, sorry, not to interrupt, but she says,
that's okay.
Send it to them directly and copy her.
Okay, send it to them directly, copy her.
Yeah, they're the ones that have all the power.
And I'm also thinking we either copy the person at Mandy's agency or we address a separate letter to them, making them aware of the MOA, making them aware of a potential dispute. And we copy, the whole world on that too, including the DOT chair. So I think that we could do those 3 things, and I think that would light some fires.
Kathy kind of advised, I brought that up with her, and she kind of advised against doing the, getting the AICP involved at this point. To see if we can, because she said that's really the nuclear option. You don't want to bug them until you really have to.
I don't
That's
know.
right.
After 3 years, I kind of feel like we're there. The way they've treated us, it just, the lack of information, and then and then come to find out 3 years later, all this stuff has been going on that they didn't disclose to us and made all these decisions. I'm still outraged by it.
Well, they're
definitely, I think we all should be.
They're definitely not following procedure the way it's outlined here in section 106.
David, if I could just ask a question real quick. Since I'm sort of new to this, I spoke with Laura on the phone a little bit earlier, just trying to get my head around the history of this. So it's the native tribes that are against sort of labeling this history. Is that right?
So apparently Kathy believes it's one person from one tribe that always objects to everything. And they listen to that person's objections and move on. But they have similar situations in the area. I think Todd mentioned one in Milford. I know there's one in Avon. And they're already doing public classes and lectures and things about it. And that's where we should be. So that's the thing. I mean, this is new to all of us here. So don't feel like you don't know, because this is all new territory.
We're all making
fumbling
stuff up.
around. But yes, I don't, according to Kathy anyway, it doesn't sound like it's a huge objection from all the tribes. It's one person, and perhaps the federal tribal administrator who's involved is not aware, and she thinks they're overreacting. But either way, they should have consulted with us 3 years ago. They should have told us about this. That's part of the way the Section 106 process is supposed to work.
Well, that's
David,
exactly right.
Do we know that, are we entitled to know, or do we know what the nature of this find is and what its impact that's causing this issue is?
We do, and I don't want to discuss that publicly in a public meeting, but I'm happy to let people know individually.
Yeah, and Kathy is even, she's even suspicious that there was any tribe involved, much less what this one guy that she mentioned. And because she says it goes completely counter to what in her experience, other tribes, coastal tribes, have been trying to do, which is, this is a golden moment to try to get their history out there and to get it well known, and to suppress something, or I mean, there's got to be a middle ground here, and all of the consulting parties and the tribes are by statute consulting parties, government to government. But nobody knows. She's still trying to figure out where this all came from. And if the SHPO doesn't know, how badly managed could this possibly be?
Todd or David, could I just ask another follow-up question? And I apologize to the commission if this is redundant or whatever. I'm just trying to wrap my head around. The issue here is, like, we're not disputing the walk bridge being built. We just want interpretation of the native sites. Is that correct?
Yes.
And other
Absolutely.
things that they agreed to long ago and suddenly changed their minds.
Yeah, the way this all came about was when we were negotiating mitigation. Well, I'll back up even further. So when they decided that they had to replace the walk bridge because the walk bridge is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, they had to negotiate mitigation with the Norwalk Historical Commission to compensate for the destruction of a historic resource. So we agreed to a number of things, that they would restore the original fencing around the Lockwood Matthews Mansion, that they would do interpretive signage. And we also said, and oh, by the way, we have an old map that's printed on the inside cover of the Norwalk book. That's X marks the spot, and it says Indian Fort site right next to the train tracks. And we said, oh, by the way, we want you to do archaeology here. Dig here. We think you might find something. And I was expecting, a couple of arrowheads or points. Nothing of the major find that they found. So since they found a major find, we obviously want to do something about it. The Historical Society, we just opened an exhibit that we worked on for 4 years. We spent $200,000. We have a whole section on Indigenous peoples. The tribal preservation officer of one of the tribes actually reviewed our script and made changes that we fully accepted to it. But we have a box for artifacts, which we don't have from the fort site, anticipating in the future. We have a PowerPoint we're trying to set up to at least show some of the stuff about the fort site. And I did try over the summer to get, images of some of the artifacts since we couldn't get the real things yet. And, they were really horrible, nasty to us about doing anything. And I had Bob Duff's office involved and really got nothing from them. So that this whole thing has been ridiculous.
So when you say they, David, who specifically is they?
The DOT. And they've been hiding under this false interpretation, I think, of the consultation process, including the tribes, but excluding us and the SHPO and the other consulting parties. Because I've never been through this, and none of us have really ever been part of this type process before. We didn't know, we just kind of took what they believed, but when they started making decisions that looked like they're trying to suppress the information, that's when we became very, very concerned, which really was most recently in this most recent memo that he sent to us in October, saying, hey, we're not going to do any archaeology on the signs. We do general history of Norwalk. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's totally contrary to the letter and intent of this law. It is designed to be a consultative process, which includes everybody, including the general public, in making all these decisions, these mitigation decisions, and all those kinds of things, which they just haven't done. I mean, up to this point, it was fine. I mean, but this was a unilateral decision from somewhere, but nobody knows where right now.
So this signage, would that be DOT signage or would that be Norwalk signage?
It's interpretive signage. In fact, we gave them as the model the signs that the Historical Commission has been installing at Mill Hill and the cemeteries and about to install at Lockwood Matthews Mansion. It is that template of interpretive sign. We said we want the same.
But it would be signage created by the DOT.
But the DOT is creating it, paying for it. And it was supposed to be installed along the Norwalk River Valley Trail.
Well, if they're not going to
supposed to run
do,
through the
if they're
site.
not going to do the signage the way we would like to have the signage done, why don't we invite them to keep their signage and put up our own? I realize it would be more of a cost for Norwalk, but that way we could have what we want where we want it, and DOT can go over the walk bridge.
I think, they have to fulfill their promise to us legally, and I think we need to force them to do that. My limited.
Well, I'm talking if push comes to shove.
If push comes to shove, I'm going to ask the Historical Commission to pass a resolution to refer to the Common Council to direct the city staff to stop cooperating on the Walk Bridge project. And we can escalate this, in various different ways. I don't think it needs to get to that, but I've had conversations with the mayor. He's very concerned about this. He believes very strongly these artifacts belong in Norwalk and should come back to us. So, we're going to try to work through this and see if we get, but we do have other nuclear options, as Todd referred to them. The DOT is us. They work for us. Taxpayers paying them. They need to give us what they agreed to.
Well, they've pretty much jammed all this stuff down our throats from the very start, and it was a smile on the face, and then a swift boot in the butt.
Well, I agree. My experience with them. The only other experience I have is I was highly involved with them on getting the fencing restored at the mansion, their other big mitigation project. And day one, I had a huge conflict. They were shutting us out of choosing the granite that was going to go on the curbing. And, I just went nuts and immediately escalated it to the mayor. to Bob Duff and to the head of the DOT. I mean, I just didn't put up with it. And to their credit, they did react. And I then developed a very strong working relationship, and it all worked out wonderfully. But their normal modus operandi is, we're the DOT, get out of our way, and we're just going to do what we want. So I think this is a situation where they're used to doing that, but in this situation, they have to work with us. We're a consulting party. They're not following the process. So I think we have to, kind of pull their chain.
David.
And like Todd said, I don't want to, because this is new ground, normally I would just go nuts and explode, which is what everybody expects me to do. But because this involves, the Federal Transit Agency and the Federal Tribal Authority and, all this stuff, it's like that, it's a little, that's new territory for me and for us. I don't want to overplay our hand until we
David, what's confusing though is that they were working at the very beginning with us as we were just, designing what kind of, things they're going to do for around Norwalk, like the different signage. And then all of a sudden they just left you out of it and decided they were just going to do whatever they wanted to do, which was wrong. Number one. The other thing that is confusing is that is not our property. And I know Randy had said initially, way back when, she would try to get some artifacts for us. I don't know, that land belongs to the DOT or to,
It belongs to the state of Connecticut. So,
Yeah.
and the artifacts belong to the state of Connecticut.
right, and those artifacts, so if there's claims, usually go down through the line of descent in the tribal. So the tribal people, all the different tribes are gonna want dibs on possibly some of those artifacts.
Sure. And there's 20,000 plus artifacts. So the reality is that, most of these artifacts are going to get stored in a closet at UConn somewhere. So I don't really, once this is all settled, I don't think there's going to be an issue, getting what we need or what we want. There may be a piece that, the Mashantuckets want that we want, and, we work it out. But I think there's going to be plenty to go around. And I don't think there's going to be a problem getting what we want on a very long-term loan, an indefinite loan. So I'm not, that part the ownership doesn't really bother me. And frankly, the city of Norwalk doesn't want to own all those artifacts because it costs money to store them and take care of them and all that stuff. So it's really just having access and getting stuff loaned on a long-term basis. I have no, I'm confident we'll get that as long as they somehow don't reach this agreement or decide arbitrarily to just try and, bury the whole Fort Site find under the rug, which is what they appear to be doing. So we have to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, one more comment. You all know that Ernie Wiegand's going to be presenting on December 9th.
Yes.
Jordan, he's going to try to get you 13,000 years of prehistory, probably during that evening. So it really pays to attend. So I hope all of you attend.
The Historical Society sent out an email
Right,
requesting people to register in advance.
right.
I'll
So
look at
if you
that.
register-
I know
So if you
I'm
haven't
attending
gotten
one
it,
tomorrow night.
log on to the Historical Society website and see about registering.
As
It's a conglomerate, but I think it's a combination of the NCC Archaeological Club and
Yeah.
the Historical Society.
Yeah.
So get your reservation in, because I think there's only 31 spots or something like that.
Wow.
60, there's a total of
How
60
many?
spots.
How many? 50?
60 spots available at the
Good.
start.
Okay.
Start.
And as David was talking about, the artifacts, it occurs to me that this issue is a good way to put them on notice that we're paying attention. And to make sure, because what we're asking is not so much this, but that they just follow the procedure that's outlined in the law. And that they haven't been doing that, and we know that, and we need to be included because that's what it says.
So can I ask what the action item is here tonight? I mean, is it to write, authorize you guys to write a letter? What's the ask here?
I guess the ask would be to authorize Dana to send a letter to Kevin Fleming about the 2 interpretive signs and to send a letter to the Federal Transit Administration regarding our concerns about the DOT not following the 106 process.
Should also go to the chairman of DOT.
Yeah. Well,
And what
let's
is-
go to the
What is
board.
Kevin Fleming's deadline for?
Was it 10?
December 10th?
Yeah.
Because they'll just say, oh, the deadline passed, you lose. We're going to do what we want.
Where the deadline come from?
Kevin Fleming made it up.
Oh,
He sent out a document and he said, this is what we want to do. And we recommend these general boring signs. And we're going to do this unless we hear from you by December 10th.
Gotcha. Okay.
and does this need to be hard copy, email, or, well, both, if it's,
I
We'll
would-
do both and
Okay.
I'll help you draft it and Todd and
Yeah,
In fact, the hard
Whatever
copy, I
we
would
get.
recommend sending either certified or registered return receipt.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to jump, but that makes sense to me. So-
Hmm.
So, sorry to leave, but thank you.
Okay, happy holidays, Tom.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Nothing says Hanukkah like Livingston.
Livingston Ski.
Yeah, doing Dunsky.
so does that sound reasonable to everyone?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes. Could I just, I'm clear now, thank you, David, so much on what we're voting on and all of that, but just one more related logistical question. These artifacts that we're talking about, you gave a number, so that makes me think we know what's there. But have they been excavated or they're still in the ground?
So we have been told that they completed excavations.
Okay,
But I don't know that I believe them. So,
right, we just want
there's
oversight.
that. But we do know that they recovered an enormous number of artifacts
Okay,
while we were still involved, and then they just went silent. And the reason was they just ran out of time, and there was another big discovery in Avon that they had to go work on, and they were supposed to come back, and they did come back for a whole year, and and then when I asked about it in June, he came back and said, "Oh yeah, they finished last week." So they came back and didn't tell us they were back, supposedly. But I'm also, I think there's more to it. So,
right, great, thank you.
but at least
Todd-
at this point, we know they recovered thousands and thousands of artifacts
Right,
before they stopped talking to us.
But those have to be washed, cataloged, and studied, and then identified to the time period.
Well, they,
So,
yeah, in June, they said that work would be completed in December. And then in the October report, they said
Ongoing.
that it's ongoing. Then I, had Bob Duff's office get involved, and they came back and they said, well, they hope by next June. So
and who's doing that work? Is that you said it was up at UConn?
AHS, it's I don't, you probably know the acronym, Archaeological
so what they are,
Historical Resources. It's an archaeology firm associated with.
yes, yeah.
But so the potential dispute over the ownership of the items wouldn't necessarily stop that process.
I think I talked to Sarah Sportsman a while ago, and she said at that point, this was months ago, that once they stopped because of finding the sensitive material, nothing was done. So there was no washing of the artifacts and, recording them, cataloging, but everything gets measured. It gets photographed. It's a pretty big process. And then they have to tell the story. They have to decide they found post mold, so we know that it was a fortified, fort. And that they will look at the different strata that they pulled it out of to date, where everything lays. And then this is pre-contact and contact. And that's why they kind of brought in, they were dealing with the Dutch and this one and that one. So there's a lot of research and a lot of, writing that's going to happen before they can really tell us what's going on. And
The
right away.
archaeologist did tell us about that it was a round palisaded fort. And we show a representation in the Historical Society's new exhibit of that on its giant photograph picture illustration on the wall. And that is
Along the lines of the Mystic Fort,
So what's that?
along the lines of the Mystic Fort.
I don't know. Is that what it looks
I
like?
think so. I think so. I think that was a pretty common form.
Yeah,
And Todd, in that statute that you were researching, is there any legal recourse? Like, maybe not from us, but from the mayor or the municipality
Oh,
to
yeah.
stop
I'm-
them?
There's I mean, the city through you is a consulting party. The Historical Society is, the Preservation Trust is, the Switch Tower Museum is. And there might be other people, I don't know, but I just remember that's who was there at the design, discussions. So there's a lot of people that are not being included the way they're supposed to be included.
Right.
And I guess,
Let me
That's
say that-
related, David, to your nuclear option.
so I guess, right, that's if we can't sort this out at the local level, then we have to go to the AICP, the Advisory Council, or ACHP, Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, which administers this Section 106, which is part of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. And they resolve disputes that can't be resolved by anybody else, can't be resolved among the responsible agency and the consulting parties.
And also, Jordan, was it 1990 that the federal law was passed called NAGPA, which is the Native American Grave
Right.
Repatriation Act, which means that we're dealing with the feds on this because it's a federal law. So that supersedes state and city. So that's, I think, where the big snafu is with,
Well, the FTA is the responsible federal agency, so
Right.
that's who.
But the
That's why
section,
everybody deferred to them.
but the Section 106, Holly, is federal law.
Yeah.
That's federal law as well. It's
Mhm.
not, that's not a state rule. So,
One
so
more
do we
question,
need to vote to
David, and then I
approve
promise I'll
sending
shut
these
up.
letters?
Jordan first?
Oh, Eric, you go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just going to ask if we have to vote on sending these letters.
we should, yes. You should.
And my question, David, hopefully will be quick, and I do thank the committee and everyone for answering my questions, because I've been very lost. Is there like a date? I mean, I know you said that December 10th was pretty much arbitrary, but a date where like the construction is going to begin and then our options run out?
Well, I don't know necessarily that our options run out for signage.
Well, signage, I assume not, but for any further examination of the site?
There is construction that will take place on the site. I think it's largely staging. They're not going to be building anything on the site, but they are going to
Okay.
be using heavy equipment there. So there's not, I don't think anything's going to be irretrievably destroyed. And I think they already have the bulk of it anyway, already excavated. And, as far as a timeline, I mean, it's going to be it'd be surprising in our lifetimes if they ever get this stupid bridge built. So we can argue about this for several more years, not really worry about it too much. But so I think the answer to your question is no, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so are you at the point where we want to vote on, first do I have to do a
Need a motion.
motion to fill in the blank, please? My brain stopped working. Fill in a motion to write a letter to these two agencies and copies to the proper parties.
So I think the motion should be to authorize the chairman of the Historical Commission to send a letter to Kevin Fleming at the DOT advising him of our position on the two interpretive signs in question, and to send a letter to the Federal Transit Administration and to the copying the SHPO and the DOT, outlining our concerns about the DOT's lack of compliance with the Section 106 process. And I think Lisa's raised her hand.
Yes, Lisa? You're on mute. Unmute. Or did you accidentally press that button? Lisa?
No, I think she went ahead to all in favor.
She's
Oh,
moving
okay,
the
yes,
motion.
okay,
I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor of this.
okay.
Well, we need a second.
Yes.
So I'll second the motion.
Okay, so that's, okay, so two motions from, one from Eric, one from Barry. And how do we want to vote on that? Yay?
Yay,
So that's unanimous.
unanimous.
And nay, I guess there's no nays. Okay, so that should conclude our meeting
Great, great.
on the Walk Bridge issues today.
Now, will the letter be distributed for us to review as individual commissioners before it's sent? Or are you just going to send that bad boy?
If it's really bad, I'm gonna sign your name to it. No. Lots of misspellings.
Along with your address.
David
send
is
it out.
nodding. Yes, we will.
We'll send it out in draft.
I'm sorry, what, David?
We'll send it out in draft form.
Okay.
I have a question. Do we have a meeting this month? Are we having a meeting on the 24th?
As-
Well,
There's
you and
another
I
special meeting.
and Liz can have a meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
We have another special meeting on the demolition delay, right?
I think that meeting was just gonna be you and someone from our council and me. 'Cause for an update to everyone, I sent
Okay,
council and I think the head of the ordinance committee, the 180-day demo delay letter that we had worked on.
so Lisa Shanahan would be that person.
Yes,
Yes.
and they suggested we have a meeting about it to talk about it. So I'm just trying to schedule something with them to
Okay.
do that now. But with
And-
regards to the December meeting, I don't think if it were to happen, I don't think it would be the 24th. Instead, I
Oh,
think
yes,
the 29th of December. So I know a lot of people, take off that week, so we could do something else, or I'm not planning to take off, so I'll be here, really up to the group.
yeah, the normal day is the 22nd. I don't know if you want to shift it up usually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Or-
thought we usually meet the
Yeah.
last
Yeah,
Wednesday
it's
of
the
the month.
fourth Wednesday. Am I correct, David? I think it's,
It's the fourth Wednesday.
yes, fourth Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
It's not the last. It's always the fourth.
Okay. Up to everyone to the 22nd. I know it's a weird time, so I'm available, but if you want to skip it or let me know.
We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so I guess we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Oh.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah,
We're all
unanimous?
fighting for it.
Okay. We're
See everybody
adjourning.
on the 9th then, right?
Yeah, I gotta sign up for that.
Better.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Hey, we're signing off at 7:44 according to my watch. I
Okay,
still wear a watch.
good night,
Thank
everybody.
you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank
Happy
you.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.